Hey everybody. Sorry about whatever issues are going on with my end. Maybe it's just Google overall. It seems like I can post comments to Google Classroom, but Google Meet is being like agonizingly slow. If you saw me in the meeting, it never looked to me like I was ever in the meeting all the way, and I certainly couldn't see if anyone else was in there. It never fully looked finished on my end to like log me in. It was just anyway, and then I couldn't even like send an email. It looked like on our Google email. So I don't know. Hopefully I can get this video posted really quick. But I don't know. Sorry if I don't know what the issue is on my end. But all I really wanted to do was go over the sample test and make a few comments as you guys look to take, the Unit 1 test. So maybe the first thing I'll say is like, it only looked to me like one person, and I think it's due tonight, technically. Like I think I set the due date for, tonight at 8 p.m. probably, but I don't know, like I think a lot of assignments are getting done, not on time, and bottom line, like we need to be doing all this stuff in a timely manner and not waiting, and certainly not turning in work late, So so it's not just this, which is again technically not even due until tonight, but there's been a lot of work being turned in late, and that's not the way to go. You don't want to like lose points and stuff. So let's try not to procrastinate as much as we have been, at least most of you. Anyway, the sample test. So maybe this first part with like all like these vocabulary words, like natural and everything. This might be one of the things that is like causing people the most trouble. First of all, let me say this out of the way. On this sample test, we included the word real. Now, you don't really need to worry about that like on the test. But just FYI, all of these numbers are real, So every number you know about, whether it's a natural number or a rational number or an irrational number, they're all at least real numbers. All this stuff falls under the real umbrella. But you don't need to know that for the test. You do need to know that -5 is an integer, and therefore it's rational, because you can write -5 as -5.0. Its decimal just ends at some point. Or you could think of it as it's rational because you can write it as a fraction, -5 over 1. But -5 is not a whole number, it's not natural, and if it's rational, it's certainly not irrational. 9.38, it's not natural or a whole number or an integer, but it is rational because it has a decimal that ends at some point. 8, it's of course real, but it's a natural number, which means it's automatically also a whole number, which means it's automatically also an integer, which means it's automatically also rational. And more evidence, because you can write 8 as 8.0 or 8 over 1 as a fraction. There's a couple different ways to look at something being rational, just like that. Of course, there's someone at my door right now. One second. All right, just close the door on your way out. I'm making a video right now. All right, gang. So number 4, root 13. Oops, sorry, that's my mask. Root 13 is irrational because this has a decimal that never ends and will never repeat any pattern. So that's what an irrational number is. You can pretty much describe it as like, if it's a nasty square root, it's irrational, and if it involves pi, it's also irrational, because pi has a decimal that goes on forever and never repeats. So, now in this part you come up with your own examples. So in integer, okay, you could actually name any natural number. Will work, because any natural number is also an integer. You could also say any whole number, really. Any natural number will work, any whole number will work, plus numbers like -3 and -7 and -12. So any of these. Irrational, you could talk about like any square root, so square roots will work, just except square roots like the square root of 16 or the square root of 9, because those are actually nice, okay? But any square root except the nice ones. And also things like pi, so pi will work, like 3 pi will work. But, there's like an infinite number of examples. Rational, give me 3 examples of rational, How about this? Any natural number, any whole number, any integer will work, because they're all rational as well. Plus numbers like 3.7 or 9.8 repeating. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of different examples of rational. Anyway, moving on. What's the opposite of 4? Opposite of 4 would be -4. But the absolute value is a little bit different. Absolute value makes something positive if it's not already positive. So absolute value of 5, that's just 5. Okay, because opposite and absolute value mean something different. What's the absolute value of -7? 7. All right, positive 7. Number 11, my best, 11, 12, and 13. My best advice is to turn everything into a decimal by just doing the division, like -2 divided by 3. It's that. -1 divided by 5 on your calculator, 0.2. Because it's much easier to compare stuff when they're decimals. And remember, with a negative thrown in, -0.2 is actually larger than -0.6 repeating. That's just how negative numbers work, okay? Because this number is more left on the number line, so it's smaller. This number is further to the right on the number line, so it's actually larger. Again, I'm not going to reteach all of this, but what you should have got for number 14 was -3. I believe what you should have got for number 15 is 11. Hey, correct me if I'm wrong, for bonus points if you disagree. Number 16, make sure you do what's inside the absolute value first. So you get down to -7, then take the absolute value. Don't take the absolute value at this step. Take the absolute value once it's only down to like one number, -7. So that's positive 7 plus 12, and the final answer is 19. For 17 and 18, and also 19? No, just for 17 and 18, you just first have to throw these values in for A or B or C, and then you follow the order of operations. The final answer I got here was -5. The final answer I got right here is -12. Hey, if you think I'm wrong, let me know. If because I could have screwed up, but let me know. And then these answers, okay. Remember, these are just estimating. Okay, estimating, which means approximating a decimal. Just use your calculator. approximating a decimal. But down here, when you're simplifying, because simplifying is a whole other thing with square roots, you could do this tree method, which you end up with basically a couple of 3s, a 5, and a 2. And so you end up with like 3 root 10. For this large number, it looks like I ended up with like 5 2s, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a 7. Okay? And so a couple pairs of 2s, which means like a couple of 2s being brought out, but a single 2 and a single 7 stay under there. Or, I suppose if you're doing it more my way, you could have just made one split, because the square root of 9 you can actually do, that's just 3. But the square root of 10, you can't do any more of that. And then here, it looks like we could have broken this up just one time into like this perfect square and that other number, and then this is really just 4. So either way, these are the final answers you should have gotten, okay? And that's it for the sample test answers. Please let me know if you have any remaining questions. The only other thing I will remind you of is, see, just one person, It's not due till 8, but, again, let's kind of get on that, right? Hey, let's look at this. Look, let's look at this. Friday. This was due last night. And there's only 2 people, it looks like, that have turned it in on time. It's a little disappointing, if I'm being honest. These 11 people have zeros, or when I enter this soon, they'll have zeros, and when they do turn it in, there'll be late points taken off. So the more you wait, the more points. But again, I don't know why we're not doing this on time. But as far as the test, I'll post now. You can see me do it in live time. Just like the quiz we took last week, this test will be done on this Google Doc. Most of the questions, you just type in answers in the provided spots. If you need to type in a square root, you can just do it like this, SQRT, and then whatever number in parentheses. Now, I just need the final answers, but there's a lot of these problems where you need to be working it out, on scratch paper. So do that. I highly recommend you grab some spare notebook paper or scrap paper, and you do the work on scratch paper, but all I really need is the final answers. So, kind of self-explanatory. These first questions, you'll just have to highlight whatever word. If you think 5 is natural, highlight that and change it blue. If you think it's whole as well, again, more than one of these you can highlight, more than one possibly. So highlight whatever number you think or word you think, and change the text color to blue. That's how you'll answer 1 through 4. All these others, you'll just type in your answers in these provided spots. Again, what I want to see here is either a less than, an equal sign, or a greater than. Those are on your keyboard. You should have no problem typing a less than symbol, an equal sign, or a greater than symbol in those locations. Final answer, final answer, final answer, final answers. Estimate to 3 decimal places. Hey, pretty self-explanatory. So I will assign that right now, as you see here. Assign. So it'll take me a while to post this video, so you'll have seen this posted for a while now probably, but that's that. Let me know if you have any questions. Sorry again about the Google problems.